welcome to Systems for Sanity. I have my guest today, Heidi Venture, and she is the founder and facilitator at a licensed Psilocybin service center in Oregon. She's the co-founder of Vital Reset LLC, one of Oregon's first legal psilocybin service centers. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys do and how you help people?
Yeah, we give people magic mushrooms for mostly mental health issues, but also for self-development and problem solving. We actually do some business problem solving events
Okay.
on psychedelics.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about more about those events and what kind of clientele you bring in and things like that.
Yeah. So back in the 60s, before psilocybin and all the other psychedelics became illegal, there was some research done where they brought in 40 men, because apparently women didn't do anything in the 60s, brought in 40 men who had problems they'd been trying to solve for 6 months or longer. So they had architectural problems. There were people trying to develop molecule models. There was just all kinds of weird things that they hadn't been able to solve. They gave
Okay.
them a psychedelic, and when they came over the top of the trip and were on their way down, they gave them paper and pens and whatever they needed to try to work on their problem. And they did. They worked on the problem during the trip, in little trains, and then they also worked on it at the end of the trip. And out of those 40 people with these unsolvable problems, 39 had implemented solutions, not just that we
Wow.
actually, using psychedelics, solved all these difficult to solve problems. And that's also how Steve Jobs came up with the phone. It's how Crick and Watson came up with the idea of the double helix for DNA. They were using psychedelics, and they say this, they admit it openly. A lot of tech companies in Silicon Valley have their own psychedelic shop. Comes in and does the thing about doing it legally in Oregon or Colorado now is that you can take it off your tickets. It becomes and you don't have to just figure out a way to hide that you're using psychedelics for your business. And it's
Interesting.
legal. Bring your team.
Interesting. It makes it sound so easy. You're talking about all these complex issues, and they just, went on a quick trip, and all of a sudden they had their all their problems solved. That's very interesting. Is this research that you're talking about? Is it readily available? Could I look it up or?
Yeah, I can. I'll give myself a note to send you the research.
Sure.
Also, maybe I'll just send you my blog post about it. That'd be the easiest thing. But yeah, but that's a small part of what we do, effective but small. And then you bring it down into the microcosm of the human. We get a lot of people who they're at a point in their life, they're at a transition point, a flexion point. They either have options and they don't know which is best, or they don't even know what their options are. They feel really stuck. I've had a lot of, and every client I talk about today is hypothetical, or they've given me permission to share their story. Hypothetical client comes in, takes way too much. This is our first few weeks, took way too much and he was just completely in the other world, however you want to say. He was gone for
Yeah.
about 3 hours, and we were really scared we broke him because he was just walking in circles. He calls us about 3 weeks after his journey and says that it's been the most amazing thing that ever happened to him in his life. He's quitting his job. He's got this new business idea, and he actually made it work. That was 3 years ago. He came up with a business idea, and now that's what he's doing.
That's awesome.
That's not what we expected to happen at all. A lot of the people we have come in with, what would you call it? Societal existential angst. Right now, there's a lot of people who feel like the world is out of control and they don't know what to do about it. So they come in, calm down that anxiety. We get a lot of people with depression. It was my story. I had resistant depression for decades. And in 2011, I started looking for someone to help me with psilocybin mushrooms and couldn't find anyone. It took me so long. I finally got a really good journey in 2020, March of 2020, because what else are you going to do? March of 2020. Other people were making sourdough, and that trip that I did in March completely eliminated my depression. So now I have this incredible life. I have a wonderful life where I wake up in the morning and be happy. And I've got energy. I've got the ability to do the things that need to be done. I'm not spending the whole day fighting off my depression. That's my favorite group to with
That's
because it's
definitely
so
been a changer.
totally personal to me. I got healed and I want other people to heal. It's the way, like, that's how we got into this business, was because of my recovery from depression. And we also see veterans with PTSD, see a lot of people with complex PTSD, which is a bit different, but gets the same pretty good results for most people. Back to depression, the studies show, the research shows that the people who take a psychedelic for depression, 80% will be in remission at 1 year. So
It's
if you want a
incredible.
4 out of 5 chance of getting your depression to go into remission, there's no other way to do it. Psychedelics is it.
Do you have to take them on a routine basis, or is it just one and done, or how does that work? 'Cause I know nothing
Yeah, that
about them.
particular research study was one study. I personally take them on a regular basis, 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
And part of that is for my own healing, and part is for understanding what's happening with my clients when they're on mushrooms.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and some people microdose, microdose it's a whole other thing. I wish we could have people raise their hands, say if they've ever microdosed. I think it's something like 20% of the American population, the US population, has microdosed. And my experience with microdosing was great. I did it for 2 months and I lost interest in alcohol. Wasn't what I was looking for, but it was nice. It was nice to have that, just to have alcohol not be any kind of a draw to me anymore. Not that I was drinking too much. Alcohol's poison, so it's better not to have it in your body. And I don't like
Yeah.
anything that calls my name. If I'm just sitting here and there's a donut over there in the kitchen, I don't like it that it calls my name.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
anyway, so
you got it.
microdosing was great for me. And definitely there's tons of people who can give you reports of how much they got out of microdosing. But the research so far has been pretty blah. It hasn't really shown very robust results or very predictable results. We keep hearing from researchers that a new study is coming out that's going to show that microdosing is amazing, and it never has come out yet. It'll come
Hmm.
out. I mean, someday those anecdotes have to lead somewhere, right? So that's the work we
Sure.
do. How we do the work. I got that relief from depression in March of 2020. At the same time, Oregon had a a vote coming up for whether psilocybin would be legalized, and I immediately got a little bit involved in that. I started signing petitions, going to meetings, seeing what was up because I was interested. I didn't think it was going to pass. Nobody did. It was not supposed to pass. The people who put that bill forth said, is a measure voted on, said, let's put something out there. We'll base it on cannabis and we'll find out what bothers people and then we'll adjust it and we'll pass it next time. But lo and behold, 65% of Oregonians just voted yes for it, not even really what was in the bill. And when that happened, oh my gosh, should I get involved in this? What should I do? So we spent the next 2 years just involved in the rulemaking and all the things that the state government had to do. I formed some groups that studied specific issues that were problematic, like the tax code, which is really problematic when you're using an illegal substance. And there's just a lot of business stuff that was difficult. At the time, I was a profit business consultant, so I understood nonprofits really well. A for-profit business was a whole different animal. We couldn't get banking because the banks didn't want that dirty psilocybin illegal substance money. What else could we get? We didn't have bookkeepers, accountants. It was just building an entire industry from the ground up. And
Wow.
we were doing that, wanting to start a service center. Other people were doing that, trying to start a laboratory or a manufacturer or a training school. So all these parts of the industry were being built as the industry was lifting off the ground. Once we got the rules, we could only be in a commercial building more than 1,000 feet from a school, and the owner had to own, because if a bank found out that you had psilocybin in the building, they'd call your loan. Super complex.
Yeah.
We live in a town. It's rural. We're one of the only rural psilocybin service centers. We're about 60 miles from Portland, Oregon. And we just drove around town every day for weeks. We knew we had little maps where every commercial building that fit our requirements was. At that time, there were schools in this little tiny town, 5 of them public and 4 of them private. And I guess that's because all you need to start a private school is an examination and a blackboard, because people just kept starting them. So it made it
Jeez.
it made it really difficult for us to find a spot. And we'd just drive around. We're just looking for a sign. And one day we were driving down a street in a building we'd been stalking for lease, that sign we were looking for. And they also had a cannabis dispensary in the building already. So that told us that the owner owned the building and that he was friendly toward alternative medicines.
Yeah.
We
That's
went and talked to
fantastic.
him. Yeah, we talked to him and we actually didn't sign a lease at first because the full rules weren't out yet, but we started having a relationship with our landlord really great. The building it needed a lot of work. We ended up renting this 1,400 square building or, space building, had 5 rooms, made 3 of them into treatment rooms, one off, one break room. We had to build a bathroom because you just really don't want people out in the hall when really altered. So yeah, so we spent 2.5 months working on that place, put a bunch of money into it. And it's all at risk. Everything we're doing is so at risk. And we had to be completely dedicated to giving up our ability to get our money back out of this thing because we didn't know. We still don't know. So we
Right.
did that. We paid the licensing fee, $10,000 a year licensing fee for the service center, $2,000 a year licensing fee for each facilitator. We started building a team of facilitators, meeting people who were doing, and some really didn't know what they were doing at all. It's kind of scary. I think at this point, most of the people who've been doing this for more than a couple of years know what they're doing, but not all. And we still hear some stories about people who want to go for a journey and just don't get all the services. They get the bare minimum. So instead of getting the most amazing experience of their life, they get them. But I don't know if it's changing because there's so much you can do in the before and the after to increase the possibility that something's going to change. You're going to get the healing you wanted. You're going to solve the problem. So that's how we started the business. Is there anything else that's
What year was
important?
that?
We didn't find banking on our own. There was started called the National Psychedelic Association, and they really worked to make banking happen. We finally found accountants who were free and we taught them the law. They didn't know the law. We had to teach them. We opened doors in June of 2022. Would that be right? 23. I guess it's 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. We, we had imagined years actually what it would be like. And it wasn't like we imagined at all. We had to continually solve problems as we worked. There's a ton of paperwork, it's highly regulated. I mean, if can you imagine going into a cannabis store? How many people go to going into a cannabis store and you have to fill out 18 pages of forms to get that one thing that you want? Well,
Wow.
it's a lot more than 18 pages here. This amount. We worry a little bit about the state of privacy. How many times have you gotten an envelope in the mail from a medical provider saying they'd had a data leak? 2 this year so far, and this is only
Yeah.
February. So we believe the people who are keeping our data for us are doing a good job, and we like them and we trust them. But I felt that way about my doctor too. I figured they're probably doing a good job. So we worry about people having a whole bunch of personal information and the fact that they've done psychedelics. So we try to keep that safe. We try to be real careful about what we write down. Yeah. That's how we got in the business. My husband, John, who I met in January 2020, he financed the business and I have just been putting in time, just time, and now some more financing. You can't get a loan for a psilocybin business. Can't get a. I don't think you can get a loan for a cannabis business, but I've never tried. But for psilocybin, it's like they won't even talk to us. The Small Business Development Center at the local college can't even give us business advice. They're not allowed to because it's federally illegal. So
Man,
the next
that's got to
is
be
that
frustrating.
okay? It's
Yeah.
so
You met.
frustrating.
Yeah. So you met your husband right before COVID started?
Yeah, met in January 2020, and then we were friends for 6 months and did mushrooms together. And then we finally realized that it turned out we were in love and we're supposed to be together.
That's
And
awesome.
he's great. He's amazing.
Yeah,
My
you
story.
meet some of the most amazing people at some of the most interesting times. My COO, Shane, who has been just instrumental in our ability to grow. So I'm great at building relationships. I'm great at selling services. I'm great at talking to clients. I'm great at problem solving. I'm great at R&D. I love that kind of stuff for our business. All those things I'm good at. I'm not good at managing people. I'm not a good manager. I'm a horrible manager. I've had difficulty with employees all throughout my entrepreneurial career. When Shane came into the picture, all of that changed, and I was actually able to focus on the things I liked, and Shane was able to focus on a lot of the things that I don't like. And he was instrumental in helping us grow. So I met him by accident. The one of our employees that was not a great employee. He was mediocre at best, probably on the bottom tier of some of my worst employees. And he had a thing for our admin we had at the time, Melissa, and he kept going on and on about how, oh, she's so hot and this and that, and he was living with Shane. So telling Shane nonstop, Shane got tired of hearing it. So one day Alex said, hey, you want to come to the office and meet Melissa? He's like, is this going to shut you up and get you to stop talking about her all the time? Oh, yeah, just come meet her. Just come meet her. You'll love her. So Shane goes with him to the office, and at this point in time, we were officing out of the house. Shane and Alex are there talking to Melissa, and I walk in. I need to talk to Alex about something. I look over, I see Shane. I don't know who this guy is. I look over and I see Alex is like, this is not my problem that you brought some rando here. I need to talk with you. So I started getting after Alex about whatever it was that he had screwed up. And Shane turns to Alex and goes, see, Alex, this is exactly what I was talking about. And I was like, who the hell are you? He goes, oh, I'm Shane, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I asked him something like, what's your deal? And he said, well, I'm currently in between positions I used to work at. And he listed off some of the places he had worked, and he'd managed some very large teams at like Kohl's and some of the other, some larger corporations. And, I said, well, why aren't you working now? He's like, well, I'm working on starting my own business. So he has the entrepreneurial spirit and the desire to build something on his own. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. I said, well, it sounds like you have a tech background. I said, maybe we should sit down and talk and have lunch or something, and maybe you could come work for us. And I turned to Alex and I was like, Alex, your roommate has a tech background. We're looking for another technician. Why didn't you think to mention to him that so anyway, needless to say, Alex once I hired Shane and put him in more of a managerial position, Alex was the first employee that he fired. So
Your roommate.
he had to end up firing his friend. So,
That's
but
bold.
yeah, we're better off for it now. We've grown significantly since then, and Shane's been a big part of that. But I was actually able to leverage a lot of the relationships I built early on with some of our franchisor clients and things like that I couldn't really focus time on because I was too busy dealing with all the employee issues. So I know, I'm sure as an entrepreneur, it's difficult to juggle. You're always wearing 15 hats. You got to do accounting, you got to do deal with the customer, and then you got to think about
Yeah.
marketing and how do I get more customers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What challenges have you guys run into in client acquisition, or how do you guys market? How do you get more clients?
Yeah. Well, we have one employee somewhere between half-time and full-time, depending on what's going on. And my goal is to give him all I don't like to do. And I recommend that for any entrepreneur. Figure out where are your strengths and work in your strengths, and things that you're weak in, find somebody else to do it.
Yep.
You know,
Delegate.
just find somebody else to do it, delegate it. And so the way we've between very focused marketing stuff and throw everything at the wall marketing stuff, so many little experiments. We'll do this for 6 months. We had brochure racks, made some nice brochure racks and had those put in the tourist thing, so they're at motels and rest areas. You would think that would be a pretty good thing. It was only us $400-500 a month. Not one single person ever said that they found us through this. That was
Wow.
disappointing, because we tried other stuff. The thing is, psychedelics aren't a regular, normal, accepted thing. So people need to think about it quite a bit, do it, or they need to be in three. Right now, we're paying a company to do Google ads for us. When we have tried to get ads on Google and Facebook, generally they get taken down pretty quickly, and we're told we're not meeting community standards. So we have to do an appeal and say, this is legal in Oregon, it's legal in Colorado. You guys need to figure out how to take our money. Please take our money for ads, and then we'll be good for a little while. We haven't been knocked off of Google for 3 months, and then last week got knocked off again. Nothing different. We're not doing anything different. All these things are done by, robots anyway. So it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Everybody looks for us on Google. They look for what they need on Google, and we can't consistently be on Google. Facebook is the same, only a little bit worse. A few weeks ago, I decided to try TikTok. So far, I haven't gotten kicked off of TikTok, and it's kind of fun. And I have a strategy, and my strategy is, and it took me a while to figure this out, but to not follow any therapists. We get a lot of referrals from therapists. So I'm only following therapists and psychologists, and I go in and chat their reels. I put comments in with these therapists who are big therapists who have, 20,000 to 3 million followers. So I'm just sneaking into their chats talking about psychedelics. I don't put any links in there. I don't put any calls to action. I just talk about psychedelics a little bit. And is it effective? I don't know. The whole industry is struggling for clients. Need is there. Like we know that there are, you know, 60 million depressed people in this country alone who could get, most of them could get, I mean, think 80% of those people not depressed a year from now. What kind of a change would that be? But they don't know. You don't know. And they don't know that they can come to Colorado, have a legal, sanctioned, regulated journey and get a treatment for their depression.
Let me ask you this. It just got my brain going. Speaking of having epiphanies and whatnot, I'm on a nonprofit board called BPSA, and we have monthly events, and we benefit nonprofits. And so one of the nonprofits we benefited, I think it was late last year, maybe like November or something like that. Doesn't really matter. Point is, it's called Grunt Style. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but it's a nonprofit that caters to veterans. And one of the big things they do is they support veterans that are having issues with, PTSD and things like that, which a lot do. And I was just thinking what you're talking about with PTSD and things like that. Do you guys get a lot of veterans
Well,
coming
that's
in for?
an audience to try to get in here. We have served veterans. You can go to our website and see the stories. There's a couple problems with veterans. One are before they're in the army, they're already service oriented, and then they're taught in the army to always put themselves second, to put the mission first, to put other people first, to put their team first. And so they get out, they've got PTSD. Their emotional dysregulation is destroying their family and all their friendships, and they won't spend money on themselves because that money should go for their family or their kids or anybody but them. That's one problem. Second problem, we should be paying for this. The government should be paying for these guys to get treatment. An average of 17 veterans a day kills themselves. An average of 17 a day. It's that number has gone a tiny bit over the last 10 years with a tremendous amount of effort being put out by the VA. If they just made psilocybin treatment part of their community program, they could send people to us and we could treat. Just in the Oregon program, we could treat everybody who wants treatment if they would just pay for it. And I think we owe it to them. We broke them. We should give them the chance to be fixed. So there's that. We've done a few veterans for free. The whole industry, like almost every listener, wants to serve veterans. We also have to pay the bills.
Right. Well, I'm wondering if it might be worth, obviously it's not legal everywhere, but it's legal in Oregon. So I could travel from Texas to Oregon
Mhm. Yep.
and have an experience. So I'm wondering if it'd be worth connecting you guys with Grunt Style. You could at least have a
Sure.
conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because one of the, I think they're very open or would be very open to alternative medicine because in their just commentary during the event, one of the guys got up and talked and was saying, all the VA does is just, prescribe all these medications and, nothing works. And it's just, basically just dull your senses. And that's not a long-term solution. That's not moving the goalposts. It's just like, you're just spinning your wheels. You just take all this stuff and it numbs you and then you hopefully don't have suicidal thoughts anymore, or maybe you do, or who knows. But I agree with you. I think something that's a more permanent solution that's going to have a lasting and long-term effect. And I mean, it's what you say it is when you were able to have a journey and then your depression was cured, or however you want to put it. I
Mhm.
think that's phenomenal. I think that's great. Anybody, I've not experienced depression, but I'm sure anybody who's experienced depression would love to not experience depression anymore. That's
Yeah,
probably be their end goal. So, um,
yeah, it's
how do clients find
painful.
you now besides the ads? And you said you put up the little rack cards and stuff like that. They didn't really generate. How do you get people in the door?
We're not doing that anymore. Vitalreset.com is our website, and we're on TikTok at Psychedelics in America. I think that's what
Okay.
my name is there. I've got a book. You can get this on Amazon. Psilocybin in Oregon. It's a guide for how to come to Oregon for a psychedelic experience or treatment.
Okay.
The next book is just going to Amazon for publishing, and it's called Legal Psychedelics in America.
Okay.
Covers more of what else is going on. Like Colorado's legal right now. New Mexico is going to be legal in a couple years, and they all have weird programs. New Jersey just came out. They put in $6 million to do some research. Texas did the same thing. They put in millions of dollars to do research. What is ibogaine? And that's not going to treat anybody. That's not enough money. You're going to see so very few people. It costs in research maybe 25,000. This is what the researchers tell us. $25,000 for each person they serve. So there was a question you want. Oh, yeah, I did that. I told you that. Probably the website's the best way to get in touch with us. There's a contact form. I'm going to tell you what happens when you fill out that contact form. So it goes in the mail, gets to me and our office manager, Jim. Jim calls you, like right calls and interviews you and tells you all the things you need. And I'm going to have to decline that phone call. He tells you everything you need to know. And then he matches you with a facilitator. We have 6 main facilitators and another 6 or 7 who are more specialists. The facilitator, you have a getting to know you meeting with them. It's a yes or no. If you like them, fine. If they remind you of your mom, maybe you shouldn't have them for your facilitator. So we'll introduce you to somebody else if they're not the right person. Then you meet for preparation. Some of our people do a 3.5 hour preparation session. Like that's the way they do it. You're on the phone or Zoom with them for that long. Bunch of
Okay.
paperwork. We do 4 1 hour preparation sessions, and we cover all the things that could happen and how to prepare yourself, how to prepare your psyche for what's going to happen. Then you come into the service center in the morning, belly's empty, and you pay for your mushrooms. You have to pay cash for the mushrooms and settle in with your facilitator. Somebody brings your mushrooms to you and you take them down. Most people do powdered mushrooms in tea or orange juice. Our mushrooms all come from a grower in Portland who we've been working with from the very beginning. They're all tested for potency in the lab. So we know exactly what we're giving you. And then what happens? The psilocybin molecule in your stomach, your liver, your stomach acid, and orange juice, if you're lucky enough to have some, turns that into a molecule, psilocin molecule. And the psilocin molecule loves your nerve cells. It'll go into your bloodstream, and every time it runs into a nerve cell, it's just going to stop right there, glom onto your serotonin receptor, and start sending this interesting, at least that's what we think is happening. And this happens like 10,000 times around your nerve cell that this will glom on. The nerve cells will start growing more receptors. They'll start growing more fibers toward each other. The nerve cell itself will get a little bit bigger. And in just a few minutes, your brain becomes super connected. So parts of your brain that never have talked to each other directly are all of a sudden able to talk to each other. And that's what we call
Right.
liftoff. To you, as the journeyer, it feels like you're in a different universe. It feels like you're in a magic space. It feels like, yeah, it feels like sometimes it feels like you're one step away from reality, but it also feels like the most real place you've ever been in life. Feels like you're getting everything. All of your senses are just so on fire. So you're seeing things the way you've never seen them. You're hearing things. Music is amazing. Music is just deep and rich and thick, and it makes you feel things. And at the same time, maybe you'll have anxiety. You'll be scared. And maybe you'll have to ask your facilitator to hold your hand. That's scared. Or maybe you're laughing. My first big trip, I laughed for 2 hours. So this goes on. It goes on. And sometimes it comes in waves. You'll have waves of being really high and then you'll think you're coming down and it'll go again. And eventually it does slow down and you come back to earth and then here you are. Reality, maybe you're exhausted, maybe you're late, maybe you're hungry, and you've got something from the trip. Where'd that something come from? You've got a message, you've got some ideas about how to change your life, you've got a solution for a problem. Maybe it's from inside your skull, like your subconscious. Maybe that's everything. Those psilocybin molecules attached to every nerve cell in your body, though. So they're in your stomach, they're in your legs, they're everywhere. So, anyway, maybe it's from your skull, maybe it's from the universe, maybe it's from a different dimension, and we don't even know. But what we find is that if people come in with good intentions and prepare themselves well, end up with a good result in the end.
Sounds incredible. I wish there was a way to experience just like a small, brief sample of it without doing it and not knowing what's going to happen. Because that is it's a little scary. You don't know how your body's going to react to it because everyone, like you said, everyone's body is a little bit different. But I like that the fact that you said there's a facilitator there. I think that's important. It's a good precautionary measure. And I think
A trained facilitator. We have to take training, and hopefully we do a lot of our own mushroom journeys so we understand what's happening with it.
right.
Yeah. So we do have an option to do something smaller. We do what's called a mini dose journey. It's kind of like what a gram of mushrooms would be on the outside, in the underground environment. But we give you that small amount. You get high usually within 20 minutes. You're feeling it, and the whole thing lasts less than 2 hours. And then you kind of know. You have an idea of what your body's going to feel like. It's not the same, but it's a good way to toe in the water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would love that. We're connected with the 5 or 6 different veterans orgs that sometimes are fundraising for trips for their veterans.
Okay.
The number of journeys they've been able to fund that way is probably under 200 for all the organizations doing it. I mean, it's expensive. All our costs are higher than other businesses. Our biggest cost, notice if you're entrepreneurs, you have to pay people to do stuff, and there's no substitute for a human being when you're having people do these powerful medicines. So I was going to say we really pay a lot of attention to safety. We're always talking about safety. We're talking about ethics. Our facilitators, we had a thing on Monday where we live streamed a psychedelic journey. I was there, and so we had a bunch of facilitators in the building. And at the end, we were all talking about safety. What did we do that was right? What did we do that could have been gone sideways? What have you heard has happened at other service centers? What's the latest you had? We all want to know. We want to keep people safe.
Yep. Well, interesting. So in beyond the facilitators, I enjoyed hearing about how the process kind of works. What technologies are you guys using either in the business or on the marketing side of things besides the generic, obviously Google ads and the Facebook ads like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, we got a program that takes care of all this information paperwork, all that stuff. A health information program. I've used AI quite a bit over the last 6 months or so. I started just using it to like do my client notes. I just talk my client notes into the phone, and it comes up with a really well written client health summary and email note to send them. Love that. I've used it to make quite a few images. This was an AI image, and it's
Okay.
it's
Nice.
pretty. It's also on our Facebook page, and we're
Yeah.
making with it. It's all This was
Looks like a
actually
painting or something.
This was based on a waterfall that I could actually take you to. It's only about a 25-minute drive.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah, Tamanawas Falls, the gods. So go there with your heart open. Yeah, I have to tell you this. The book, I was not planning on a book. I got an appointment with somebody who's starting a marketing business, and she does these 1 hour get to know visits. And when I told her all the things that we had tried, all the ways we've been kicked off Google, and she said, I can't think of anything else you could do except you've got all these blog posts. You've got like 100 blog posts. Why don't you just make those into a book? And she said, it'll take you like a week. Just use AI. Just feed them in and AI will make a book. That's not how it worked for me. That might be how it works for other people. As good a writer as AI can be, it needs a tremendous amount of guidance.
Yes.
And you just can't leave. You got to look at it. it's dumb mistakes and it puts in a bunch of M dashes for no reason. Yeah. So the book is AI enabled, I guess. It was very helpful, but also super frustrating. The second book, I wanted to add a bunch
Helpful
more.
and frustrating. I like that.
Oh,
Give a
yeah.
review of your AI agent, both helpful and frustrating.
Oh, I call my AI agent names regularly because it's an idiot. Oh, it is an idiot. And that's the nice word I use. Anyway, I wanted to do more with this book. I got this book out in a hurry, like 2 months. And
Yep.
then I kept thinking of other stuff I wanted to talk about. So the new book, Legal Psychedelics in America, I think that's what I called it. It's got a bunch about the history of how we did this. And I got a bunch of people to collaborate and write for me. So
Nice.
I've got the viewpoint of other facilitators. I've got a couple of them who weighed in on how to dose. Dosing has been a big deal here because the underground guys, like they've for years just used the same strain of mushrooms from the same strain of grower, and they could tell what was going to happen. But we're getting these mushrooms, like all different kinds of strains, all kinds of profiles, and figuring out how to get people off the ground, especially people on antidepressants and sleep. Sometimes it's really hard to get them lift off. And recently we've discovered that people are on Ozempic or what's the other ones? Can have a delayed onset. So we've had one person came into a service center. They were on a GLP-1 and they did not get high at all that night after they come home. So they get home and all of a sudden they're in reality. They had to call their facilitator and get some help. So, yeah, so we're learning all the time. It's very exciting. I've been privileged to be asked to speak at the Psychedelic Science Convention twice now. Been asked to speak at the Harvard Petrie-Flom Harvard Law School workshop for the next generation of psychedelic law thought leaders.
Okay.
So, yeah,
That's a
so
mouthful.
it really is. And yeah, I've spoken at a few other things. Like I said, I talk about this stuff all the time. I love it. I love what it does for people. I love hearing that a client has come to us for something, depression, OCD, Parkinson's, PTSD. And 3 months later, we hear from their facilitator that they're so much better. They're so great.
That's awesome.
95% of people who come to Oregon for a journey say it's the most they've done in their life. So
Yeah,
we
that's
have a
great.
bit of an awareness
Powerful.
problem, right? Right? People don't
Yeah.
know.
It's a powerful story. So if people kind of wrapping up our conversation here since we're getting towards the hour, if people want to reach out to you and find out more information or if they want to book a visit or anything like that, how would they do that? What's the easiest and quickest way for them to do that?
The easy thing is to go to vitalreset.com and fill out the contact form.
Okay. And then you
Yeah,
offer
and
manage or
I
calls
really
them.
do. I'm not just pushing this. I really recommend people get this. You fill out the contact form and ask for a free PDF copy.
Okay.
Somebody may send you one because it really helps you get ready. It helps you prepare to know what to expect, which is
Yeah.
it helps you be more relaxed and less anxious in your journey.
That sounds incredible. Well, Heidi, I really appreciate all your time today and thank you for coming on and sharing a bit about what you guys do and how you help people.
Me. I have no idea how you even got together, but I'm really glad we did. It's been a conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week.
Okay, you too. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.